Drain me or replenish me? These are the questions we're supposed to be asking when we meet a new romantic interest and if it's going to fit into your life and how you want to utilize your energy. Welcome back to Along This Spiritual Journey. So, I have never really been one to pay attention to how I give my energy out because it comes to me so easily and I have so much to give that I'm just always overflowing, right? I'm always overflowing, is how I look at it. My happiness, my joy, my whatever, it's just there. Pain, anything. I can assess it, I can utilize it, I can take it and just say, okay, great. Here's this thing that everyone else can do with it, and I just go off and do my own thing. When I started to pay attention to how I let friends and romantic interests in, I started to think about who was draining me, who was replenishing me. And this is a hard one to really pay attention to, especially if you already have established relationships or friendships where they've been there for years. They've been consistent in communication, they show up for you, they're available. That's a real friend. I'm never going to discount that from someone. But there is a time and place where you can start to outgrow situations that are stagnant to your growth because they're not replenishing you. So right now, we have people, when we say this, the friendships and company you keep is where you're going to go in life. There are amazing people who just want to stay stagnant. And that's not a dig, it's a truth. Some people don't want to be a CEO. Some people don't want to run a company. Some people don't want to be a doctor and do all these great changes for the world. They just want to exist in their human existence and create the life they want. That's awesome. We're supposed to do that, right? There's a balance to all the things that I said, wanting to be the CEO and wanting a family life. Those are two things that go together. But what happens is, if one of you wants to keep going and the other one wants to stay, and this one is not feeling replenished, and this one is feeling like you're taking something away. And so you're both having this moment of give and take of we're supposed to want to pour into each other, but what happens is we end up pouring more into our own, I'm going to say, distorted needs of what we want versus what the other person requires to grow. And I know sometimes this is hard for people to handle, especially when it comes to long distance relationships and people who are creatives and they have to go off and travel for work, or business people and come back home. These are those types of relationships where you have to really be strong. You have to be a strong person to understand that long distance and all these things are about building an emotional trust first, because you don't have anything physical or tangible to really trust besides someone's words. And so this is that thing about building that healthy emotional resilience to know, is this person pouring into me, or are they replenishing what I need, even if they're not available when I need them to be available? Am I getting what I need out of this? Because that's going to make you want to give more to them in reciprocation. I understand that, again, this is not about long distance. This is just giving examples of knowing how to figure out what you need for you in that very moment. Because I used to fight long distance. I used to try to force myself into proximal relationships because they were closer, which fulfilled my hedonistic ego needs, but it wasn't fulfilling my spiritual needs. And I was cutting off an array of people that could possibly pour into me. And so I always tell people, watch for resistance and watch for flow. If you feel resistance, which looks like you putting in way more energy than necessary, or everything around that situation just keeps falling apart, that's not meant for you then. Don't keep trying to, no, let me hold this together and keep stacking this block on and keep trying to make it work. If it ain't working, it ain't working. Let it fall apart, check your foundation, make sure it's even, make sure it's flat, make sure it's solid, and then build on it. You don't keep trying to hold a building together or a situation or friendship relationship if it's on shaky foundation in the first place. Because remember, a lot of our relationships were created on trauma bonds, and we became friends or became partners through trauma. Relationships are healing because once you heal that trauma, you wake up and say, oh, I never actually needed this bond. I don't know where this bond came from. I'm not sure how it even came into my life. But when you're stagnant and you accept what's around you just because, and you force yourself into situations you don't want, this is where you start getting that draining relationship. Everything feels heavy. It doesn't make sense. Why do I feel desperate? Why do I feel depressed? Why do I feel alone? Even if you're in one of the most happiest stagnant relationships, because I tell people, a stagnant relationship just means you went to school, you moved out, you met a person, you don't have much in common, but you're attracted to each other. You have a good time. It works. Neither one of you wants to do anything grand. You just work your jobs and live your life, and you come home and you build this beautiful, amazing family. And you just live your life every day, doing what you do every day to just have this beautiful, amazing family. To me, that's stagnant love. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's stagnant. There's nothing happening except that. Love is coming out of it, which is beautiful, but there's still situations where there's people like, I'm a go-getter. So for me, I'm always producing content. I'm always producing an idea. So I probably am better off with a person who's going to either support me in my ideas or also has ideas so that we can jump on the bandwagon together versus someone who's like, I only want to stay home all the time and I want nothing to do with what you care about because that's not my interest. It might work for some people, but usually it might fall apart because there's nothing there that's holding you together that makes you feel like you're really pouring into each other. It becomes more of you feeling like they're draining you because you're trying to force yourself to find simple interests. And this can work if you choose to. Again, this is why friends are important. These relationships aren't bad, but if you don't have a friend in your partner, then usually your friend group is going to make up for that. But again, people feel this because then it's like, well, why doesn't my partner treat me like a friend? Why don't they look at me like a friend? Because y'all don't know each other. You guys aren't aligned. One of you is draining the other and the other one's just getting what they need to suffice what they need while you're sitting there not fulfilled. That's why I say find someone who has similar goals. It doesn't have to be similar interests, but it has to be similar goals. Do you both want to teach, educate, whatever it might be? Know that about yourself so that one day when this person wakes up and says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else, but I want to do it with you. That's when you say, yes, of course, I support you. Not, no, what are you doing? What are you thinking? That's silly. And people get divorced over that very moment because it's like, you're not supporting me. You're not giving into me. You're not pouring into me. Let me feel like I have a safe place with you because that's going to allow me to then grow and expand beyond what we call just our relationship. Because again, a relationship is not your entire existence. It's nice to have, but it should not be your entire existence. What does this look like? That friend, when you talk to them, it doesn't matter if 5 years has passed. Their only conversation is about their spouse. That's it. It doesn't matter what topic it is. It will always circle back to their spouse. Do you know how exhausting and draining that is to know that that is that person's only survival or link to life is living through their partner? Good for you, but no thank you. I like to live through myself and have a partner to share it with. I like to have stories of my own and then say, hey, if my partner's included in it, they'll be included, but they're not the driving purpose of my life. I woke up and I made them food and I thought about them and I did this and this. Again, that's okay if you choose to do that, but this is where you're going to start feeling drained. It's important to know how to pour into yourself because it's always going to overflow. Remember, overflow will always overflow. Whatever surrounding it will get it. So if you're pouring into yourself, you will overflow and you will pour into the things that matter to you. If you're not pouring into yourself and you're just giving it all away, you're going to be empty and everyone else around you is going to be thriving and you're going to wonder why. So I hope this makes sense. Pour into you. Know the energies that are pouring into you. Again, this looks like if I say I want a serious relationship and I meet someone who says they don't know what they want right now, they just want to see where it goes, that's not going to work because they're telling me right now, you're going to pour into me a lot, but I have nothing to give you. And whose fault is that, right? If I say, do you want a serious relationship? You just want to play. And they're like, no, I would like a serious relationship too. Okay, great. Now you're both on the same page, 2 cups. Doesn't mean that you're together yet. It just means you're on the same page. And when something pours in, you both will get poured into evenly. And then the imbalance comes when you both are moving around and the other one might have lost a little. So then the other one can pour some into them. And then the same for them. Oh, you lost a little. Let me pour some more into you. But at both points, they still are 2 separate cups that are pouring into themselves that can then pour into each other at any time versus a solo cup with another cup that's full constantly draining themselves for the other. So reflect on that. I hope that makes sense. Love you.